Bonjour et bienvenue à Minuit Rappler Animaux. You like that?
That was pretty good.
Thank you. With me today, it's Salt here, and with me today, I have our French cultural correspondent, Serg. Serg, how are you, and how's Paris these days?
Things are good. I want to say things are better than the US, but you can never quite tell. Last time I was on, Joe Biden was president, so not to date anything, but it's been an interesting time, and things are fun. Things are excellent out here. How are you doing over there in the US? Your state on fire.
Well, in NorCal where I am, it's we haven't had any fire risk recently, and in fact today it's quite rainy.
Nice.
Yeah, we will be getting into some French politics today, some French cultural intrigue, because we are here to discuss none other than Alexandre Dumas' The Three Musketeers. Now, you, dear reader, dear viewer, dear listener, dear human, we're sure you're a dear, good little guy, good little person. You're listening and you're thinking, is this the right show? This is the show I listen to hear about dumb guy comic books. And to that I say, this is the progenitor to your dumb guy comics. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because a lot of these kind of books were like serialized too. So
yes, thank you for mentioning that.
When we look at it now, where it's like a giant novel, this was like someone would read this from a paper, whenever it came out. So, this was like very much a precursor to comics and like everything else like that.
It's so funny imagining someone waiting at the newspaper stand or however they did it back in 19th century Paris. Yeah. And they're like, last week's issue wasn't so good, but I think these threads can come together still.
I don't know what he's doing here, but we'll find out.
What's in your pull box?
Yeah.
We're doing Three Musketeers today, and there's so much to cover. We'll definitely get through the book itself, talk about some of its how it influenced other works, how it was adapted. But before all that, we're going to talk a little bit about Dumas. And before that, I want to start by saying how I got into this. I love swashbucklers. I needed more swashbuckler stuff in my life last year. My fixation with this particular book started when I wanted pirate movies, and I was seemingly all out of more pirate movies. So I just happened to find the 2011 Three Musketeers. Have you seen that one, Serg?
Yes, I have.
It's perhaps the ultimate dumb guy version of this book.
Yeah. It's like a low bar, but somehow that one goes underneath anyways.
Okay, I actually kind of love it. It's by our guy Paul W.S. Anderson, who did Aliens vs. Predator.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It is very much like a video game disguised as a movie, like a lot of his works are. My theory is it was either originally an Assassin's Creed script, or he was sort of kind of auditioning for Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. I always feel like bad because Mia Jovovich is like not a bad actress, but whenever she's in something, I'm kind of like 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be good. And like, I feel bad for her that I think that of her. But like, the cast is amazing in this film, and it's just such not a good film, and it's so bizarre what it does.
Can't believe we're disagreeing so hard right out the gate. I adore that movie. It is terrible, but I love it.
It's fun. It's definitely fun, like as a film to watch. Like it's again one of those like what I call TNT classics, where it's like when it's on, you're like, oh hell yeah. But it's not like, oh my gosh, this is like Letterboxd D favorite film song.
No, it shouldn't be for anybody. But actually, it was Quentin, one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite movies of that year.
Amazing.
Which is great. So yeah, I watched that movie. I was like, this is sick. I want to know more about this. And I just started watching more and more Three Musketeers movies until I realized, okay, I got to read the book. Read the book, loved it, researched Dumas, and I was like, oh, this is good episode material. So we're gonna start with Dumas, and the first thing I want to say about Dumas is Dumas lived in the 1800s, and the Musketeers is a story set in the 1600s. So for cultural context, imagine like a current American writer writing a highly fictionalized account of the capture of John Wilkes Booth, that story becoming a huge hit. Like someone writing that now, like I think that gives people an idea of what Three Musketeers might have felt like to people in the 1800s.
Yeah. I mean, Dumas just, that says it. He's a fascinating dude, man. Like, I'm also going to point out that like his dad was a black general from Haiti.
Yes.
Which is like a super like amazing, like, so his dad's also like a military hero too. And like, so, at that time they, I don't think the French in them had like that half black or some of these like, denotations that we would have now and stuff. So Dumas was essentially like, he is, even now, like one of the biggest French authors, most respected and everything else, most beloved. And, so it's like super funny that, again, he is this man that's, from, like his father's from Haiti. He's black himself and like the great writer of France in a lot of ways. Like him, Hugo, and Zola are three like the great authors of a certain era.
Yeah, his racial makeup's really fascinating because in some ways, whether he wanted to or not, he was living as a black man, but in many ways he was afforded and enjoying the white privilege benefited to him. A little bit more about his ethnicity. His grandfather was a slaver and plantation owner named Alexandre Antoine David de Pelleterie, and he had a son with a slave on his plantation in Haiti. And it's such a terrible, awful move already, but then he sells the son into slavery, which is wild. But the mom, as I understand it, figures out a way to get the son to Paris, and then David de la Pelleterie has this teenage son in Paris suddenly. He's like, oh, okay, you're here. Well, I guess I'll get you a proper education. And that was how the elder Dumas ended up working his way into the French military. One more note I want to make about the father Dumas and the names is that he's not Pelleterie, he's Dumas, and as far as I could find, Dumas was a self-given name that meant of the farm. So it's like he's either very humbly or just very honestly saying like, yeah, I came from a plantation, like that's my name. So for him to work his way so high up into the French military, and then for him to fall so hard is quite the story. Like I can't get completely into Dumas' life, Dumas' father, but suffice to say he had a legendary career in the French military. He fought like a super soldier at times, and then he was ultimately betrayed when Napoleon came into power and lived the rest of his life destitute.
Yeah, he and Napoleon hated each other, and I mean, Dumas the older also was like the first black general, and like some of the people, one of the guys he worked with was actually Toussaint Louverture. So like he was very much this weirdly influential figure in history that like, because of his clash with Napoleon, kind of I don't think got his full due and credit until like much later, I think, in France. I'm not too familiar with that, but I know now he's talked about a bit more. But he's an interesting guy. Like reading about him alone would be worth a book.
Yeah. No, I watched like a 30-minute YouTube video just on Dumas' father. Like, amazing life. And there's quite a few authors and translators and editors who attribute Dumas' works, like not just Three Musketeers, but Count of Monte Cristo, as tributes to his father, and saying these are works of fiction, but really these are love letters to what an amazing, powerful man his dad was. And I can really see that. It's like the dad died kind of a broken life, the way he'd been broken by his jailers and by Napoleon, but just incredible man. Just gotta say that over and over.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, pretty much like, whenever you read or see a swashbuckling movie or work, that's influenced by Dumas, it kind of has like, you can kind of imagine his dad living through it, and that's kind of seems ridiculous at times to say, but it's very rare to have that, but it's probably like pretty accurate, because he was just he was that dude. It's like.
It's not ridiculous. When you read about the things he did, he would fight battalions 5 times bigger than him. Like, oh, okay, he was him. He had that dog in him.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
I want to get a little bit more into Dumas, the younger Dumas, his life. Just 2 things about him. In his professional life, he wasn't raised really rich with this, off of this pension his dad was owed. He really had to work his way up into writing, and he was like a law clerk, and kind of came up at a perfect time to get into the pulp novel. Like Serg has said, this was like he was writing books that were released periodically, in the newspaper itself before they were compiled. And one detail I found really fascinating about Dumas was that, as he started to enjoy more success, he employed this massive studio of writers to research and write in his style. And I was like, is this kind of like a Stan Lee situation? And, sure enough, years later, Dumas would have a rights dispute with Auguste Maquet, who co-wrote Three Musketeers. So there is a little symmetry there.
Yeah. Oh man, it's because when you look at like what he wrote, the list is like ridiculously large. Like no singular man could like write that much. Like right. He's like I think it says here on the site, published over 100,000 pages, or a total of 100,000 pages in his lifetime. It's just like Dumas was a hustler, but like also like he was like the prototype of like Stan Lee, or like Bill Finger, not Bill Finger, the other guy, Bob Kane, or like some of this comic, some of these comic guys, like Thomas Edison is similar, right? So like, like he's that guy.
And much like those guys, much like Lee, it's like you can say that they profited off of a lot of people's works, but they also legitimately were talented and like could achieve really impressive creative feats. They contain multitudes, as it were.
Yeah.
Last note I want to make about Dumas himself before we start to talk about Musketeers is I found the end of his life really interesting. He did the classic French celebrity move, which is move to Belgium for a tax dodge.
Yeah.
Like, what is with that, Serg? Why do so many French movie stars do that these days? Like, obviously they're dodging taxes, but why is it so easy for them to do?
Belgium's just really close. I took a train there, and it was like a high speed rail, but like it was like 2 hours or like an hour and a half. It's like
so you can like, still go to France.
Yeah, it's not like Spain, where like they speak, they don't speak French, right? They speak Spanish. But like in Belgium, a lot of people speak French. So I think it's just kind of like, like how old school criminals used to flee to Canada.
Yeah, that was Belgium.
It was Belgium. So I think that's funny. The other thing I think I want to point out also is this guy had like 40 mistresses, Dumas.
Yes.
And like it's so funny. Some of these authors, man, they had so many, like, they visited so many brothels, and he was a member of the Club des Hachishens, which is where like all the famous great authors met monthly to take like hashish.
Yes.
Like, so like, and it's like Hugo, Baudelaire, Nerval, and Delacroix, and Balzac. Like, so all the great writers of that era were just like getting high and hanging out at this hotel, just like
I love Dumas,
just taking
man.
drugs.
What a
and it's
guy.
like, yeah, I mean, this guy is the realest dude. He's like, he's hip hop before hip hop, man. He's so good.
You know what? Speaking of hip hop before hip hop, he actually, I was reading this in the tabloids at the time. He was getting mad talked by white writers. They would say like, "Oh, he loves wearing medallions."
Yeah.
Like, that's so the 19th century version of how you would criticize a rapper
He's
for
got
dressing.
shades and like, oh man.
I want to say one more thing, in that, he dude was larger than life, did so much, especially towards the end of his life. He also participated in propaganda efforts for Italian unification, and I know nothing about that 19th century Italian unification project, but I found that really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, he was outspoken politically, so I think that's always like kind of noteworthy to talk about. Like, he was heavily criticizing slavery. He was heavily involved in the times, and like, so was Victor Hugo. Like, a lot of these writers were like not just like profiting off these things. They, like even the Three Musketeers, we'll get into that later, but like, he was very much attacking certain ideas and certain like constructions of the nation and empire at the time too. So like, like when, as much as we're bragging about him like avoiding taxes and smoking all that, he was very much a political polemicist. He was not afraid to speak his mind in that way either. So that's fascinating to me too. Like, because he was criticizing colonialism at a time when that was not a popular stance. He wrote actually a book that's like about, like, it's like the Count of Monte Cristo, but it's a slave revolt in Haiti, and it's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. And, again, for people listening, like, this is kind of a golden era of French colonialism. So really brave and cool for Dumas to be doing that back then. Before we approach the book itself, and now we've covered Dumas, I want to quickly go over what a musketeer is. Like, it's this word everyone's heard, but like, what does it even mean? And it simply means that it was a soldier who was outfitted with a musket rifle. It was a relatively new invention at the time, and Louis XIII essentially made this new regiment out of his existing guards. He outfitted them with muskets. They were a horseback unit as well, even though my understanding is the musket had to be used on the ground. As you'll see in the story, Cardinal Richelieu also established his own unit of musketeers, though in the book they're usually just called the Cardinal's Guards. And I find that really fascinating because, you'll see in the story, like, these guys are always getting in scraps, and I would love your thought on this, Serg. Like, part of what I enjoyed reading this book is how the political parallels were not 1-to-1 a lot of the time. It was really fascinating to imagine. Like, is there? Do you get what I mean when I say it's hard to imagine a modern analog in, like, say, the United States of like two highly outfitted units who are just like constantly at each other's throats? Yeah,
I mean, I guess I was talking about this with a friend earlier, and like, the concept of the nation state really didn't exist at this point in time. It kind of did, but not entirely. This, like, the unification of Italy, like, is a notable thing, but like, even when there was like a king of France, it was still like the king of France had like several other nobles who may or may not have more money than him, may or may not have soldiers to him, may not be totally loyal to him. And I think like this is kind of what he's playing with at that point. So I mean, like, this is like what's sort of fascinating about this is that we don't really have an equivalent to that nowadays, but we still kind of do, in the sense of like certain businesses will do kind of bit deals behind the backs of like certain policies. They may not openly defy people the way that, you know, like the Cardinals men and the Musketeers will like openly brawl and like just be like, oh no, how dare you fight? And I think, and I mean, I'm sure that was not like, that might have just been a romanticized thing. I don't know how accurate they like would straight up fight in the streets with doing, but like, yeah, I mean, just imagine like if the NFL was like the nation and every franchise was its own like separate faction and army, and then people, you know, instead of games they just fought like that. It'd be like that essentially. Like it's very like strange to think of now, because we don't have that kind of attitude anymore about anything really. I mean, even police that don't like the FBI, or like firemen that don't like cops in certain cities or just generally in the nation, they wouldn't necessarily fight, you know, but like
right
in this era, and it's, you know, there are points in history where that would happen, but like, you know, that's what makes it funny sometimes to read this, is because like it would be like literally about like the fire department and New York and the New York Police Department just getting into a fight every time they saw each other, and just like, you know, which, you know, so it's, I mean, like, I think that's as close as it would be like as an analog existing in the US, but like, you know, like, again, this is a product of its time, I think, and that's what makes it fascinating, is that like these things weren't as well defined. And, you know, he's writing a historic novel for his time too. So he's going back 200 years to a time where it was even more so divided in his mind. You know, he's taking liberties, but like he's still like kind of pointing out this idea.
Yeah, I'm so glad you phrased it that way, because that's a really good way to understand it all. And, you know, to that I would add, to a certain extent, he's using a clever writer's trick of using the 1600s as a metaphor for the 1800s. I'm talking about something that happened 200 years ago, but if you're paying attention, you're understanding that I'm critiquing the world now.
Yeah.
So, you know, we could synopsize this thing, but you know, you can also go on a Wikipedia. It's a fairly long book. I mean, it's not that it's a slow read, but a lot happens in every chapter. There's a ton of action, and some of this, a lot of the events in the book actually occurred. And you know, there's also film adaptations. So, you know, I'm putting it out here. Read the book or watch a movie. Like, you're going to have more fun than hearing a synopsis. But what we will do, rather than a synopsis, is we're going to look at some individual characters from the book and talk about their significance and their arcs. Let's start with none other than number one young hustler, D'Artagnan of Gascony.
Yeah, just a cool, hot-headed, wild child, man.
Yeah, he's kind of like the OG shonen protagonist. Like, when he gets pissed off, he gets more strong.
Yeah, I mean, like, I love it because it's like, also, I don't really think any of the movies really do a good job of capturing like the large amounts of rage this guy has. This is not Goku. This is if Vegeta was the main character in Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. You know, and that's what makes it like funny in some ways, because D'Artagnan's just always just like ready to fight at the drop of the hat, no matter what.
He's always ready to fight. He is also fixated on getting laid. He's very much Dumas' self-insert, whether he meant to or not. Highly relatable for me. Reading about D'Artagnan was his attraction to evil women. No further comment. D'Artagnan. D'Artagnan is, you know, he's defined, let's say, by his relationships. It's the Three Musketeers, but you know, they're also called the Four Musketeers, and you see why, because even though he only becomes a musketeer in like the back third of the novel, there's this funny relationship where everyone's like, well, you know, the Musketeers like him, he can hang out, so he's just this like kid who gets to hang out with the Musketeers, and he's functionally a musketeer, but only officially becomes a musketeer by the end.
Yeah, he's like the little brother of these guys, which is funny because so I think something that's notable about D'Artagnan in this story though is like he does evolve. He starts off this young hothead, and he never really loses his temper, and he never really but he kind of grows more skillful and more like clever as time goes on, learning from these three older musketeers who are very different men from each other. They're all like unlikely friends of each other too. So it's kind of interesting to watch D'Artagnan's arc, right? Where he starts off as just this young man who wants to be a musketeer, and by the time he becomes a musketeer, you're like, oh, this should be the end of the novel. And then it goes a little further where he's like very much matured and gotten older in this. So it's pretty interesting, like him as a character in this, especially for those of you that have seen like movies or adaptations of it. I don't really think anything really captures him as like this like rage-filled, horny young man evolving into like an incredibly clever, like disciplined soldier, essentially. So yeah, I think that's worth pointing out.
I'm going to push back on that claim. I wanted to save this for the end, but I think now's a good time for it. Have you seen Richard Lester's 1970s Three Musketeers?
I've not seen that one. I haven't seen that one yet.
I would love for you to watch this movie.
Okay.
It is the arguably only good Three Musketeers adaptations, even though I enjoy them all. So D'Artagnan in this, I mean, the whole cast is stacked, dude. Rochefort is played by Christopher Lee.
Nice.
What's his name? Escaping me right now.
I'm looking it up right now. Charlton Heston is Richelieu.
Yes, Oliver Reed is Athos. But I wanted to mention, it's stacked. But Michael York is D'Artagnan, and I've never seen this in any version of Three Musketeers. In every version of Three Musketeers, D'Artagnan is a goody. And what I love about Dumas's writing is like, even the honorable characters, they're morally compromised multiple times throughout the book. And Michael York plays D'Artagnan with such a twinkle in his eye. Like his D'Artagnan is kind of a sleaze. He's understanding, how life in the city works, like how he needs to get ahead. He understands that cleverness that D'Artagnan needs to have, and he's almost grizzled. He's almost a shell of himself by the end. Not haunted with trauma, but he's seen some by the end of the movie.
Yeah,
and I adore that adaptation. I think I can't imagine a better depiction of D'Artagnan, but I think that movie gets the Musketeers so much, and in some ways even improves upon the novel. It had a sequel, Four Musketeers, as well.
Amazing. I'll have to check it out then for sure.
Yeah. Let me know what you think. So definitely D'Artagnan, as we said, he grows a lot over the course of the novel. He is a rage-filled guy. I mean, there's so many cool moments. One D'Artagnan scene I want to call attention to is, there's the classic storyline of the Queen's diamonds have been tampered with, and the Cardinal is trying to drive a wedge between the Queen and the King. It says to the King, you need the Queen to wear her diamonds at this ball, knowing that some diamonds will be missing. So D'Artagnan and the Musketeers set out to England to get the diamonds back. And what I love, that I don't know if this has been in any of the films, but all the Musketeers, they've fallen, and D'Artagnan gets into this fight with a guy just to take his place on the boat. Nearly kills this dude.
I mean, there's also the sequence where he almost all the movies start with him fighting Rochefort, right? The Cardinal's agent. But the book also has D'Artagnan fight like 3 or 4 more other dudes. He gets in 6 fights before he even becomes a musket, part of the musketeer crew. And they're awesome. The king finally has to tell him, you need to stop fighting because you're injuring too many people. It's going to cause political turmoil. And it's super funny because, just that whole story, but also Dumas writes sword fights very well. I think that's something that's like not, like you wouldn't think about that in literature, like being able to write action, but like he very much does capture like all this. Like even at the beginning, when we first like Rochefort talks about how like he's gonna beat him, like he knows, but like there's a brief moment where he's a little uneasy because this kid's a little better than he should be. And there's something really clever about like doing that too. Like again, where you're like, this is a guy who's not a seasoned warrior, but he's very much has this natural talent that's going to carry him against all but the best, essentially. And I think that's like really, really cool that Dumas like devotes the time to talk about this kind of thing. Gives you a feel for like dueling almost with the mentality of that. Yeah.
That scene is funny too, because Rochefort's goons beat the hell out of D'Artagnan with kitchenware. Essentially, they're beating him up with pots and pans and stuff like that.
That is like a manga moment for sure. Like the guy just goes to fight, like the head guy loses and then gets pounded by like 3 other randos, just like
And D'Artagnan's sword given to him by his father breaks during the fight because he has no idea what he's doing.
It's just totally humiliating. And so yeah, this book is incredibly funny in that sense too. Not to follow the plot too closely, but after that, like he after he recovers a bit, he goes into town and picks a fight with three of the musketeers we know who are going to become his friends. But like all of those sequences are super hilarious too, because it's just him being like this country bumpkin idiot, not understanding like.
Oh, it's so funny when he blows Aramis's cover. Like, he's running into all these people, and he literally runs into Athos, which is great. But it's definitely the funniest one is Aramis, because like Aramis is like talking to some other nobles, and D'Artagnan has this inner monologue like, okay, I've already gotten into fights with 2 other musketeers. I need to be helpful now and not piss anyone off. And then he points out to Aramis, hey, you got a handkerchief by your feet there, sir.
Yeah. And
totally blows the fact that Aramis has been screwing the guy's wife that Aramis is talking to.
Yeah. Aramis's whole like running story is that he wants to be a priest, but he also just loves the poon. So he's just like, so it's like, it's really funny. So again, when he's like trying to cover the fact that he dropped his handkerchief so the guy won't notice. And then like, it causes this whole thing. And he's just like, And the funny part about that exchange also is like, then D'Artagnan gets pissed and starts challenging him to a fight. So it's like, everything about it is super funny. Cause he's like, I'm trying to do the right thing here, but I'll be damned if someone talks to me that way. And like,
what's funny is I was trying to figure out like what is up with Gascony. It's like it's not talked about anymore. There's not even really a clear map of it. And what started to make more sense is that Gascony culturally, I mean it's in the West, but that's kind of moot. Culturally, Gascony is kind of akin to Scotland in terms of people's attitudes and the climate. And so it's very funny, like imagining a similar story in Britain. And, instead of every line saying the Gascon, it's saying the Scot, the Scotsman. Like that's who D'Artagnan is.
I mean, the Gascons are the Basque. And the Basque are historically seen as like hot-headed, kind of brutish people, brutish people who will like absolutely fight for like anything. Yeah. And so like, like this is the stereotype that both the French and the Spanish have about the Basque. So it's like even funnier, like to like see this still there at this time period, cause it like, cause like a lot of their culture is just like really, really intense things of just like, like throwing, like I think they play wall ball, like they throw a ball at a wall and catch it, but they do it with their bare hands, and everyone else is like in awe of this. And like, again, they fought to maintain their own like independence, right? So that's kind of where D'Artagnan's like whole thing is coming out, right? He's supposed to be like this almost independent, quasi not French person, who doesn't understand French culture, and is just coming in like ready to fight everyone. so
that makes sense. And as I said, that makes sense, and that's also a good way to understand the Three Musketeers themselves. Now, like we said, this is based on real events. Obviously Dumas took liberties, but a lot of these people were real people, and I found out that the Three Musketeers in reality were also all Gascons. I think there was like a unit of the military that like focused on drafting young Gascon men, and so like you can kind of, even though they're not identified as Gascons as such in the text, you can like understand like, okay, they had that similar fighting spirit that Gascons were said to have. So yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was say, I believe the captain, even Monsieur de Treville, was also Gascon. Is also implied to be Gascon too. So like, it's supposed to be like, I think that's kind of the running joke. Obviously, is that like D'Artagnan's just like a kid from the country who's not like hasn't been properly acculturated to like French culture. So these are things I've only been able to connect like recently, because when I read this, I was like a teenager in California. Like, so now that I'm out here, I'm always like, oh, that's how you guys see this. And like, like, so it's super funny. So like I said, like, we should get into the other Musketeers because they're all incredibly funny as personas.
Actually, before we do, I'm so glad you mentioned Monsieur de Treville. He's a really cool character. He unfortunately gets waylaid. He's completely missing from a lot of the adaptations. He's a really charming character. I really like the scenes where he's kind of doing a verbal chess game with Richelieu. There's these great scenes where you have Cardinal Richelieu, the king, and Treville. And Treville is always kind of doing this psychological chess, this reverse psychology to get the Musketeers out of trouble. And he's also just kind of like the, again, if we want to make the manga comparison, he's kind of like the sensei, the master Roshi type. Like he has advice and counsel, and is a good ear for D'Artagnan to fall on when times are tough. Yeah, it's kind of a shame he's not really appreciated in like the movies, because I think his like the way he politics is kind of almost like just as important as the sword fights themselves in a lot of ways. And I think that's really what like highlights the game of like this story is like, everyone remembers the fights, but like, it's like the whole political barbs and trades in chess game that's like just as important. Yeah. And he uses pretty advanced rhetoric to make his case that, the Musketeers, if they were fighting, surely they had good reason to. And it's cool because Richelieu is shown to be like one of the smartest characters, and it's cool that Treville can keep up with him. Yeah. All right, so the Three Musketeers themselves, we have Athos, we have Porthos, we have Aramis, we have all these characters. I'm trying to do the Charlie Rose thing. Nice. Athos is a drunk. Yeah. Some adaptations get this, some don't, but like it's said so many times in the book that it's like, oh, we knew where Porthos was at, we knew where Aramis was at, we didn't really know where Athos was at, but he's probably at home getting drunk by himself. Like he has a really sad life. He's just like a really dark drunkard character. He'd be like, he'd be Piccolo if Piccolo drank heavily, like just like the angry, quiet guy. I think there's a sequence where he like beat his servant for talking once, and he's trained his servant to only speak in like emergencies in sign language. Like, he's just like the most extreme man ever. And like obviously like later on it's given like a reason for this, but at the beginning you're just like, he's just like the angry, quiet dude, and like it's kind of hinted that he's kind of the more powerful fighter of the three, but like he's just angry drunkard. He's also the most gifted tactician of them all. He comes up with a few plays that save their lives. He's also implied to be a very rich nobleman, but he doesn't really use the money. I mean, a really fascinating aspect of this is how broke the musketeers are throughout the book. Yeah. That was shocking. Like, they never have money, and when they do, it's because they pull off some horrible scheme or scam, and then they lose the money immediately every time.
And then, like, they always put the money to, like, buy liquor or buy a drink. It's like, in fact, you know, again, there's another sequence, I think, in D'Artagnan where his servant thought he was going to get paid well. He doesn't get paid. He starts complaining. And they're like, and D'Artagnan's like, what do I do? My servant keeps complaining. Like, well, why don't you beat him? And so he beats him, and the guy stops complaining. And you're like, this is horrible, but it's incredibly, like, weirdly funny. And I think that's like how Dumas meant it to be seen. Like, it's just like this weirdly funny idea of just like, if you beat your servant, he'll never complain again. Just like, what?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, is this of the time of Dumas' time, or is Dumas making fun of that time, or is it some weird mix of both? Yeah, the servants are interesting once you've read the book. Like, you know, like, I wasn't expecting the servants. I've seen all these adaptations. At most, in the adaptations, they might have Planchet, who's D'Artagnan's servant, but all of the musketeers have their own servants. They each have their own characterizations. The musketeers have their, you know, their own individual relationships to the servants, and it is pretty disturbing, these scenes where the servants are either beaten or threatened with being beaten. It's also funny too, because like the musketeers would be nothing without these guys. Like the servants do so much that the musketeers need to pull off all their various ventures, right? And then the musketeers are constantly saying how untrustworthy these guys are. Like, oh yeah, they're gonna run off with all your money. It's like, this guy just traveled like 300 miles to deliver a package for you. I don't think he's gonna rip you off.
Yeah, I mean, it's also funny because they're all like reflections of their masters too,
right?
So there's like that element of that too. Again, like Grimaud, who was Athos' servant, is only allowed to speak in emergencies, and he talks with sign language. And in fact, I forgot when, but at one point in it, he says something like to warn the musketeers, and like Athos immediately goes, "You talked." Like, it's like actually like an important thing to say, and he's like, "How dare you speak?"
That's at the siege of La Rochelle, I think. There's like 40 guys about to shoot them, and he's like, "Did you really have to say anything?"
Yeah, it's just like, it just reminds me of like Archer's butler, you know. Yeah. I'm gonna rub sand in your eyes.
So we have two more musketeers to cover. Yes. We have my goat, Porthos. You gotta love the big, strong, dumb guy. That's Porthos.
Yeah.
Also, another character trait of Porthos that is unfortunately missing from most adaptations, MILF Hunter. Porthos is scoring with older women. There's a very funny scene where he's trying to rip off this cougar's husband's life savings, and he goes to dinner at their house, but the husband kind of knows what's up. Like, Porthos is pretending to be a long lost cousin, and the husband's like, this is kind of weird. So the husband puts on like the worst, cheapest dinner ever, and Porthos storms out. It's a very funny scene.
Yeah. Porthos is always kind of like, besides that omission, like pretty well done in movies, I feel like, because he's just such a larger than life character. Everyone just always has fun with Porthos's character. Yeah. So it's super surprising sometimes to think about that. But like, obviously in the books, he's like a little more like, he's more of a himbo in a lot of ways too. He's kind of gullible. He's kind of just like this big, strong, dumb guy. And it's amazing. But that's all I got to say about him. He's great.
Yeah, he's my favorite. And then next we have Aramis. Aramis is maybe the most complex of the Musketeers, and I think maybe his adaptations don't get him quite as much. Like you had mentioned, Serge, my guy loves the poon. He is constantly out for it. There's also a lot of subplots about him seeking to become a priest, and there's definitely that's an opportunity that Dumas takes to offer commentary on the church, essentially. When Aramis is studying under two different kinds of priests, you can tell Dumas is saying, like, yeah, these guys are bull artists. They are just talking right out their ass. So in that sense, like, Aramis is Dumas' distrust of the church, other than Richelieu, who we'll get into.
Yeah. He's also like one of the more clever guys too. He's not quite the tactician Athos is, but he's also extremely shrewd and smart and kind of cunning in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
That's really not played with until you get to like some of the other novels too. But like, yeah, he's an interesting dude. And usually, when you see him in these movies, he's usually just like, it's just emphasized, haha, he wants to be a priest and he loves women. But he's kind of one of the more surprisingly complex characters that often gets overlooked, because Athos' story is all like woven into the plot, whereas Aramis is kind of almost a secondary idea in the first novel, at least. Because again, this was a trilogy too. Yeah.
Did you read those other two books?
I read the second one, and I have not finished The Man in the Iron Mask. I got to go back to that one.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a few more characters that are worth going over. I'm going to go over some of the quicker ones before we hit the big ones. We have the king himself. I mean, even though the king's an important character, I don't think there's too much to say about him. I mean, Dumas depicts him as a pawn of the cardinal. There's various sources that say that it wasn't really the case, but again, I think Dumas is more trying to make a point than tell accurate history. It is funny, like how over his head the king is in all these scenes, and the movies do make that pretty funny and accurate. Anything you want to say about the king?
Yeah, I mean, like, not only is he kind of weak, he's kind of like less concerned with the state of the country and more concerned with how he's seen.
Yeah.
And I think that's also like a very fun kind of like jab Dumas takes at this idea of France, or like the history of France, I think. Again, because he's writing this post Napoleon had come, and taken over, so like this is a different era of when this stuff was written. So, he's kind of like attacking also nostalgia, I think, in a way. So, that's what makes it even funnier with him, So, yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to really say about that.
Well, we also have his wife, Queen Anne. She's incredibly complex, at least politically, even if she doesn't get a lot of story. She is. It's very confusing. So any clarity you could offer me here would be much appreciated. She's called Anne of Austria, but a lot of people distrust her because of her Spanish connections. And my understanding was that she had like an Austrian father and a Spanish mother. Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah, I think she's a Habsburg, and she's from
that's correct.
She was Queen of Navarre. So that's Spain. So she's just basically like not French, and she's kind of lives this life as an outsider. And again, I think like I don't know if this is more of a commentary on Europe as a whole or what, but like again, Louis is less interested in her and more interested in how he's seen as a monarch. So it kind of leaves her isolated to become like this pawn of everyone else too. She's having an affair too. So, everyone's having an affair.
Yeah.
Which is also incredibly funny that as a thing.
Very French.
Yeah, exactly. And, so I think she's kind of an interesting figure because like they kind of suggest that she'd be a better ruler if it weren't for her husband.
Yeah.
So.
And
and I know Go ahead.
You go.
I would say Richelieu, I think, like, also disliked Habsburgs in general. And I think she, at one point, becomes kind of like Queen Regent and takes over in France, too. So that might be part of it, too. Just the fact that we know she's going to eventually take power, so this is kind of like her learning, similar to D'Artagnan, right? Like her learning the ways of like the court life she's living in.
Yeah. That's a good time to bring up Richelieu. Richelieu is one of the arch villains of the book. What did you say?
he's the man in this. He's like if there's a supervillain in this era, it's Richelieu. Like it's yes. You know, and like to be fair, like historically, he was very much like a guy who like beat down the nobles, checked the power of the Habsburgs, started wars, and kind of like consolidated royal power. So he very much did build France the way it was, I think, in a lot of ways too. So like, I think this is also, Dumas having fun with history, playing with a lot of it. It's funny to think of a cardinal basically being the king at that point in some ways. But, and I don't know how much of that is like, he was actually that, or like that's the reputation now. But it's super funny to think about that, though. It is,
a word that I think is useful for understanding this book is like conspiratorial. There's all kinds of conspiracies within conspiracies of this book, right? And he's almost like a deep state figure. Like we see that he has access to all these prisons. He's been able to make his own guards. Like I think it's really useful that you mentioned that the nation state was not a completely solidified idea. And, much like our modern tech oligarchs, this is a man who can take advantage of the porousness of the law.
Yeah, he's got his own spy network. He's
right.
This is like, I mean, this is the closest we get to a Game of Thrones character in this book.
Well, and that comparison is great. Like, I really think a lot of these modern hits, owe so much to this book. So it's cool to see where it all starts.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I do want to point out, even though he's very much seen as like the villainous antagonist in a lot of ways, he's also like within limits because his agents have like their own sense of self and some sense of like codes and everything else too. So like Richelieu is like an antagonist in a way that's not like necessarily wantonly evil. It's more like a political game for him. And I think that's really interesting too, because oftentimes when we do get like antagonists in like this kind of like setting, one of them, you come in on them like murdering a kitten for no reason, and they're just like, whereas Richelieu's just kind of like a guy playing the game he feels he needs to play. And it's sort of fascinating that Dumas makes it that way and still makes him the antagonist in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it makes Richelieu surprising and unpredictable. And there's scenes where he shows mercy, and it almost makes him scarier in a sense. You're like, okay, well, what's his game here, right? So there's three more characters I want to get through. One is my guy, Rochefort. This is one of Richelieu's spies. I adore Rochefort. I was very sad that after seeing so many movies that end with like a big sword fight between D'Artagnan and Rochefort, that he's almost missing in the second half of the novel.
Yeah. I mean, he is, and he's kind of not in some ways, because he's just kind of looming everywhere. He's not the central villain though. I think which is sort of funny too. Like he's just kind of really clever, and like D'Artagnan like sees him several times and try to fight him, and Rochefort just kind of like was told not to fight him, so he just he just kind of like nope and just leaves. And I find that really funny. He's very much like an interesting dude in the sense that like he appears super villainous, but then like as the story goes, he's just kind of a guy doing his own job too. So he's just kind of like, no, I just look terrible. I'm not really evil or anything. I'm just doing my job.
There's another spy of Richelieu, but before we get to her, we need to talk about the Duke of Buckingham. I like the Duke of Buckingham a lot in this book. To say nothing of the real Duke of Buckingham. I'm sure he was a vampire, as all British royalty is. But, Dumas portrays him with a lot of honor here. And particularly the scene with D'Artagnan where, they have to form an alliance to save Queen Anne's honor, but then they're also like, well, we're also technically enemies, aren't we? Like, that's a really cool scene.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because he's like pretty much willing to put England at war with France just because he loves Anne. And like, there's something really funny about that because it's like seen as super honorable, but it's also seen as like this weird like moment where like, and D'Artagnan's like, well, next time I see you, I might have to kill you, so take care. Yeah. So yeah, he's kind of a funny character in that sense too, where he's just like, just an honorable guy who's with Anne and in the more political intrigue. So yeah. I don't know how much spoilers we want to get into with that.
Yeah, I mean, my attitude is if something has been out for 50 years, you can't spoil it, and this thing's been out for nearly 200.
Yeah.
So
yeah, fair. I was going to talk about. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't so much trying to avoid spoilers as I was just trying not to do like the rote, predictable Wikipedia summary.
Yeah, fair.
My last major character and plot point I wanted to address was Milady. Milady is one of the wildest characters in the book, and also the character that maybe go, Dumas, how could you? It definitely shows some of his attitudes at the time. Milady is introduced from the very beginning as one of Richelieu's agents. She's almost sisterly with Rochefort. Like there's nothing romantic there going on. Where she really gets involved in the book is when D'Artagnan starts visiting her for information about Constance, the woman he loves, but he's quickly like sprung for her, and there's it's this seduction that starts to happen, and you're wondering who's seducing who. Really almost disturbing because, we see Milady's thoughts. We see that she absolutely despises D'Artagnan, but D'Artagnan's obsessed with her. You've got the Musketeers saying like, whoa, stay away from her. She's evil. And I was like totally down for all of that. But where I started to, I didn't want to be overly moral about it, but it is a little disturbing when, D'Artagnan seduces her, or D'Artagnan is pretending to be her lover at night, like when it's dark, and like they sleep together, but she thinks it's this other guy, and like it's icky,
Yeah,
it's just gross.
I mean, like he also seduces and like quote unquote falls in love with her servant.
Yes,
which is super funny. Like it's like she becomes like he's like in love with Milady, and then the servant says like, she's just trying to get, like set you up and like, get information out of you. And then like once he figures that out, he's like, oh, well, I love you now. And he like seduces her. So it's like this, and like they're like, and like he's like deeply in love with his servant apparently now. And you're like, that's super weird. And she has a husband too. So it's like even weirder, like morality wise. I think it's interesting though also because she's very much like the equal of all four of these men. And I find that like fascinating too.
She is and she isn't. Like she is depicted as having more physical prowess in the films, but again, like where the book shows it's like it's of the era-ness is there's so many passages where Dumas writes something like, Milady wanted to strangle this person, or Milady wanted to break out of this room, but she was just so womanly that she couldn't.
It's
the misogyny is a bit overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, like her power is really just seduction and being manipulative.
Yeah, and where I really like felt askew or taken aback because he's going off that she's the devil himself. Like she is evil incarnate. I'm like, yeah, I'm down for this. I know what evil women are like, but like then when you finally get her backstory, it's like, oh, she ran away with a guy when she was 16. Then they put her to the gallows for some crime she committed. Then she seduced the jailer. Then she seduced the priest. Then she seduced Athos. And it's like, okay, 16-year-olds are not seducing men. Like, let's just get this straight.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I don't know if this is like Dumas being like clever social commentary, or like, you know, just like trying to convince, what would people hate? I got it, a woman.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I mean, I'm not here to judge Dumas. You know, it's again, I don't want to be overly moral about it, but it is striking. It is pretty wild that was just accepted back then.
Yeah.
But I do feel sorry for her at the end. You know, like the book culminates in her execution. And, you know, there is a feminist reading on this, that she has been wronged by all these men, including Athos, right? And to that extent, I was looking it up, and there's a bunch of movies from her perspective that I would love to see what those are like. I'm sure they could tell the story in a compelling way. That was all I really wanted to say about characters and story arc. Was there anything in the text with characters or arc you wanted to mention?
I mean, I do want to point out that, like, you know, like, even though she's executed, she very much like does succeed in a lot of her missions. She seduces that guy to kill. She seduces her jailer, who's like a Puritan. You know, so like even the Puritans can't resist her. You know, like to murder the Duke of Buckingham, and he like told her like, wait for me and I'll catch the boat and join you, and she just sails off without him. And it's like, you know,
that is very funny.
It's like super, it's super funny, and like this whole like villainous thing. But it's like, I mean, I do want to point out, like, she is like an effective female villain, I think, and it's like fascinating that like. A lot of the movies tend to try to flip her role into being less villainous sometimes, and almost like an Irene Adler kind of character. Like, she's in conflict, but she's also in it for herself, kind of thing. And putting the villainy on Rochefort, whereas like the book really does the opposite of that. So what I was going to say is the sequel features her son.
Yes.
So he comes in for revenge, and that's kind of amazing too, because I think that like also plays into something that's a bit more. But yeah, no, it's a fascinating character, and it's like, again, written in the 1800s, set in the 1600s, so it's like very much playing with the idea of, I think Dumas, like to this point, Dumas I think is doing this deliberately, playing with the idea of like what a woman's power in this era would have looked like. And I think like he's kind of showing, you know, like she's doing the most she can with what she's got, and I think that's something that's kind of neat. I don't necessarily, you know, obviously I don't necessarily think I would characterize it as like this super feminist thing. I think there are readings of that, but like, you know, it's fascinating to see that.
Yeah, and I don't think he's despicable. Like, you know, it's like the work can read as misogynist, and he's not. I'm not calling him a misogynist, right? Like,
yeah.
Like what I really like about your analysis saying like it's a woman using her power is like that goes both ways, and he is not shy at all in the way he flips that and shows that many of the men in this book are so willing to throw their morals away for a mere scrap of pussy. Like, these guys like, will say they care about honor and justice and fraternity, but if they can get laid, they'll throw all that out the window. And I love that really about the honesty of this writing.
And all the other guys are like, yeah, of course, yeah, why wouldn't you? You know, like, oh man.
Well, that's the text of Three Musketeers as much as we can get into today. You know, I'll say it one more time. Like, read it for yourself. It's a really fun book. If I'm being completely honest, I do feel like he slows down and loses the plot a little bit in the last third. But it's such an achievement. It pulls off so much that still affects literature today. Like, that's really cool to witness. And on that note, I want to quickly, before we get out of here, go over some of the adaptations and what they get right, what they get wrong. We obviously can't cover them all. In my research of the adaptations, I found out there was an anime. Did you know this?
I did not know this. I'm pretty excited.
There was
about
a Three Musketeers anime. I've watched the opening credits. It's pretty sick. I mean, it's nice looking animation. It's cute. it's got the characters, they're a little more anime looking as you'd expect, but there's a guy who looks like a vampire, and like that's sick, dude. Like, yeah, the Three Musketeers should fight a vampire guy. I'm into that.
That sounds awesome.
I want this is the poster post in the chat for you to see. I wanted to start with this one because I've barely watched it, but my thing with the adaptations is they don't need to adhere too closely to the book, because the book is already fictionalized accounts of stuff. It's already made up. But my whole thing is, if you're going to make changes, like, make good changes. So with these adaptations, I'm going through what I like and what I don't like is, like, do the changes work, right? So I'm going to start with two adaptations I haven't seen. Maybe you've seen them. There's a 1920s French version and there's a 1940s American version. Have you seen either of those?
I've not seen those ones, no.
All right, we can't say anything about them. Moving on. There's the Richard Lester 1970s version. I've talked about it already, but this is such an awesome film. A couple more things I want to add is Oliver Reed as Athos is not just acting like a guy who's out to kill other guys. Oliver Reed looks like he's about to kill those stuntmen on set. It's insane. He fights like a rabid dog in this movie. The action is awesome. It's one of the horniest adaptations too, so it really gets the sex of the book. Like I said, my only criticism of the book really was that it slows down a little bit in the final third, and there's some changes to the text that actually feel more satisfying in this movie. And I said it was two movies. It's Three Musketeers and Four Musketeers. It was actually shot as like a 4-hour film, recut and redistributed as two separate movies. It's just two parts to the same movie. But because of that movie and the business shenanigans, the Salkinds, who would produce the Superman films, because of the business shenanigans they pulled, the actors only got paid for one movie, which resulted in a clause wherein you can't do that anymore. Producer can't do that anymore to an actor. Amazing. Because the Salkinds trying to get away with that. But yeah, it's an awesome movie. Lester's direction is awesome. The dude can really direct action. I adore it. It's actually one of my favorite films ever. I think it's so good. Moving on, we're not going to get all of these, but I'm trying to go through it somewhat chronologically. There's the 90s Disney Three Musketeers. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I've definitely seen that one.
Tim Curry as Richelieu is awesome. Charlie Sheen looking so hungover and strung out as Athos is not awesome. No, he's not. He's Aramis.
Yeah.
Terrible casting choice.
Yes. Kiefer Sutherland as
Athos is good.
Athos, yeah.
Oh, what's the Latino guy, or at least Latino looking guy who plays Porthos?
Oliver Platt.
Yes, he's great.
He's pretty good.
They call Porthos the pirate in that version, which I'm like, yeah, sure, Porthos could be a pirate. Why not? Like, that's a change I'm into.
Yeah.
That one has some of like the meandering problems, and like you had alluded to, a lot of the films don't have the politics, like all the stuff about going to war, and the very little of that makes it into the movie.
Yeah.
So, but it's a decent family film. There's some good action. Next up, there is the Paul W.S. Anderson one. We talked about it. It is so stupid. There are like steampunk airships by the end, but I love it. I think it's like you said, it's a TNT movie.
Yeah, it's just fun to watch at that point. Like I said, like if you know you're not going in to like love a film on this, just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
There's
go ahead.
I was gonna say there's a 2004 musical with Zelenskyy playing D'Artagnan.
Oh, you're serious? That's
and
so
the Three
funny.
Musketeers were gender flipped to be women.
That's the most woke Musketeers I could ever imagine.
Amazing.
Oh man. Like I said, there's a bunch of adaptations. Speaking of women, there's a bunch of adaptations from Milady's perspective. There's like some old Italian ones. I definitely want to check those out. Another adaptation I want to address is the BBC one. Have you seen this?
The TV show, the newest one.
The BBC Three Musketeers came out about a decade ago. Do you know this one?
Oh, I haven't seen that one then. No.
No, it's very much
2014 one.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen that one.
I could not get through it. It starts with like D'Artagnan's dad getting killed by crooks, and so D'Artagnan is like on this very Batman quest for vengeance.
Yeah, it takes a lot of liberties. I mean, it has some great actors in it. Peter Capaldi's Richelieu.
Capaldi's
awesome.
Athos. Yeah.
How they make Porthos black, which
that's
is pretty
a good choice.
Cool. Yeah. So like there's things in it that are fun, and there are things in it that are just kind of like, okay, this is not the book.
Well, what I realized I don't like in these adaptations when they make the Musketeers and D'Artagnan like act more. I don't know if self-righteously is the word, but when they've been wronged, like all the problems they get into in that book, at least in the start, is their own faults, you know?
Yeah.
So to have D'Artagnan, like, you know, righteously seeking vengeance, it takes out some of the magic of him just being like a hot-headed idiot.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, that's what I did not like in the 2023 French ones. I thought, a French adaptation, this will be good. But you warned me. You're like, yeah, this is kind of like MCU Musketeers.
Yeah, I was warned about that. France has been doing this, trying to make high budget MCU-esque French products.
Yeah, the writing is a little bit MCU-ish sometimes. But I will say it definitely looks better than an MCU film. Everyone is always covered in dirt, which I really liked. And there is some pretty inspiring action sequences. Other than that, it's like got 10% of the story DNA. It's like its own thing, you know?
Yeah.
Any other adaptations you wanted to mention?
I can't really think of any that are like stand out to me right now.
Yeah, there's so many. There's no way we'd cover them all.
Yeah, there's a million. I mean, there's like children ones, there's like plays, video, you know, stuff like that. You know,
I gotta check out the Zelenskyy one. That's wild.
Yeah. I was just looking online. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, it's funny to like when you read something like this, or you look at this thing and you just kind of start meditating on like the influence of it. I mean, this really rewrote action genres like entirely, you know, like it's unthinkable to even remove it because it's so foundational to everything.
Yeah, and that was why I got so into it. I was, you know, seeing in the movie, seeing the book, like, oh, I've seen this trope before, and realizing, like, oh, maybe it didn't start here, but it was perfected here. Any other closing thoughts on Three Musketeers or the related works?
No, nothing right now. Go read them, go enjoy them. Dumas is amazing. You know, he has a lot of other books I haven't read yet. Also, as we talked about, that he may or may not have written. So, you know, he's a blast though, man.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun to do and research, and Serg and I are big swashbuckling heads, so we will very likely come back with either another Dumas work or another seminal piece of swashbuckling, because I love this genre, man. It's so fun for me.
Yes, it's a blast. It's yeah, it's funny, especially because it's a genre that doesn't really go away, but you don't really think about it being present the way it used to be.
Yeah, it experiences surges, right? But it's not it's not omnipresent, but nonetheless, yeah, that doesn't go away. Like it's very funny thinking about when I think about modern swashbuckling, I think of Pirates of the Caribbean. I didn't see the sequels. I thought they looked stupid, but I think that first one is actually awesome. It's like it's got real production value. It's kind of shocking that a Disney movie like aged that well. But it's very funny too that it was like, whoo, that 9/11 hit the country hard. What should we do? Pirate movie.
Yeah. You know, it's always funny to me also, like, you know, one of the original like canon things also was like that Bruce Wayne was going to watch Zorro in theaters, you know,
Yes.
like when his parents died. So it's like always like a fun like nods where you see these things pop up over and over. Pirates is also funny just because it, like, when you watch the movie in the context of the swashbuckling genre, it's just paying like homage to like all the films. And I find that like really fascinating too. So like this is definitely a genre worth jumping into, I think, and talking about.
Yeah, there's so much to get into. Would love to do more swashbuckling. Maybe this is our first entry in a swashbuckling exploration.
Absolutely.
Well, a few closing orders of business before we get out of here. Support the show. We're on the Patreon. You can sub for even just a month. You know, don't even have to do the whole year. You can get. We have a huge back catalog, a lot of cool stuff we want to share with you. Lan and I did a Kamen Rider episode that was really fun, and all of us, all these guys, we've been doing some things that we'd like you to give a listen to. You can follow us on the socials. You can jump in the Discord. Those links will be in the episode description. And last, before we bid you adieu, messieurs et mesdames, we have a Taste Makers grab bag where we recommend one work we have recently enjoyed that we think you should check out. Do you got some today, Serge?
Yeah, nothing quite so inflated. I've been playing Marvel Rivals, and it's a lot of fun. It takes away a lot of things that annoy me about Overwatch. It kind of has a chaotic energy of Team Fortress 2, for those that played that back in the day. It's just good. I missed hero shooters that weren't like too competitive or things to take too seriously. So it's just fun being a comic hero and just like shooting other people. So I think that's my recommendation right now. I'll have other ones on later episodes as I think about it. But yeah, that's a good one. Enjoy.
Sweet. Yeah, I know a lot of people have been playing that. Well, keeping in the theme of France and swashbuckling and dudes rock, I'm going to recommend a movie I recently watched. It seems like a lot of people have heard of this. This has totally gone under the radar for me, but I just heard of and just watched Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Oh,
Do you know this
amazing.
movie?
It's amazing.
It's so cool.
So good. It's so good. It's so good.
It's about like a real urban legend. Like, you know, there was this giant creature that was mauling dozens of people in the French countryside in the 1800s. Like, that actually happened. They never figured out what it was. So all these urban legends sprang up to say what actually occurred. There have been multiple movies about this. I think there was a movie last year about this event. But this one's from 2001. And it's stacked is cast. The cast is stacked. It's got my guy Mark Dacascos in it, but it's got like martial arts. It's got these crazy like sets and costumes. It's actually one of my favorite movies now. A lot of favorite movies talked about this episode, but
it's so good. Oh, yeah, man.
Check it out. Every version I found online was a dub, and I hate dubs, so I actually bought the DVD. It was the sub director's cut, and it was worth it.
Right on.
Yep. That is it. So thanks for listening today. No, we should say merci. Merci pour...
Merci.
Are you speaking French yet?
I am not fluent yet, no. And
okay,
what was funny was my French actually felt... I visited Morocco, right? And my French actually helped more there than it does in Paris, because in Paris they don't tolerate inferior French. So they're just like, no, speak to me in English. And I'm like, And in Morocco, they're like, yeah, okay, we'll make this work.
You know, that's how it was in Montreal. In Montreal, I felt really like supported, and like it was really like everyone encouraged you to speak French. In Paris, they're like, we don't have the time for that, buddy. Get with it.
No, your accent offends me. Get out of here.
Well, thank you for listening to Le Podcast, and keep on grappling.
Keep on grappling. Yeah.